They weren't familiar with his new face. 2 months later, Biden appeared on stage in Miami for the first Democratic primary debate, and he was hard to recognize.
You know, I'm struggling to figure out whether Biden is still Sleepy Joe or this new and improved, out-of-control rage monster who so badly wants war with Russia.
You probably remembered Biden as blustery and jovial, Irish charm by the bucket load. He was famous for that. When Biden did manage to focus his attention, he seemed highly annoyed. The Biden campaign has never explained what exactly happened to Joe Biden that night in Miami, but whatever it was, it never got fixed. It continues. From that day until now, probably the most authentic feature of Joe Biden's public performances has been his anger. It seems to come over him in waves. Watch.
Focus on this man, what he's doing, that no president has ever done. No president.
No, I haven't taken a test. Why the hell would I take a test? Come on, man. That's like saying you, before you got in this program, you take a test where you're taking cocaine or not. What do you think, huh? Are you a junkie?
What do you say? I'm not out of time. You spoke over time, and I'm going to talk. Here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact of the matter is, look at what's happening.
By all accounts, Joe Biden is a more lethargic version of his former self. He doesn't have the same pep that many people remember him having when he was vice president or when he was in the Senate. He's a lot slower, he stumbles over his words, and he often loses his train of thought. But Fox's role, outside of being a megaphone for Republican Party priorities, is to scaremonger their viewers into thinking every Democrat is a violent, angry lunatic on the verge of destroying the world and everything their dear viewer loves. So, after a few years of Sleepy Joe, now he's Roid Rage Joe, about to smash his fist through the resolute desk in a fit of uncontrolled anger. That's what they want you to think. That's the new line. This new line of attack from Fox comes as increasing tensions between Russia and Ukraine are exacerbated by NATO allies and Western media, in part Fox.
So no American president has said anything like that in your lifetime. You grew up assuming the United States would never use chemical weapons because the United States is not a rogue state. And yet, in a flash of pique, because he couldn't remember the correct words, Joe Biden, the president of the United States, reversed 100 years of American security policy in the middle of a war.
The White House has mostly been restrained in the face of increasingly bloodthirsty calls for war from the media. The Intercept has done a great job chronicling this. Reporters have spent the last few weeks hounding Biden and his comms department, asking why they won't do more to help Ukraine, when nearly all of their questions have been couched in this escalatory framework designed to squarely pit the United States military against Russia. And look, I know I'm beating a dead horse, but it is rich to see Fox clutch their pearls over both the prospect of a new war and purported outbursts from a president.
This is hardly the first time we have tangled with Russia. We've had far more threatening circumstances than this one. No American president mentioned regime change at the Kremlin. Why? Because they were soft on the Russians? No. Because Russia has about 6,000 nuclear weapons.
To the former, Fox is the home of hawks. As much as they might denigrate safe spaces on college campuses, no space is safer for war hawks or military-industrial complex parasites than Fox News. If you want to sell the public on a new invasion, a new place to bomb, a new war, there's no better place to start than Fox News. There have been some questionable moments for sure, but to the Biden administration's credit, they've mostly resisted calls for a no-fly zone over Ukraine, because enforcing one would constitute an act of war against Russia, because the United States and its military would need to shoot down Russian jets and bomb into Russian territory to actually enforce a no-fly zone. That could trigger another world war, which, if that's something that Fox purportedly does not want, stop asking about it. And for the president's alleged anger management issues, where were you during the last administration? Fox News spent the entire Trump administration serving as dutiful little courtiers for the guy who floated the idea of nuclear war with North Korea via Twitter. A guy who bragged about how the Republican base would be okay with him murdering a stranger on the street. A guy who inspired and cheerled a violent mob at the Capitol. A guy who, You get it, that guy. They were fine with him. They thought he was tremendous. They shared fancy dinners. They traveled around the world with him. And they ultimately did his bidding as he and his administration tried to make everything about this country even worse. So I'm really struggling to reconcile, does Fox want this strong, bloodthirsty leader that inspires national pride, or do they want a meager, sleepy Biden? I can't make sense of this. Because ultimately it matters if their guy is in the White House. That dictates how they feel about hawkish language. Democrats here are if they do and if they don't to Fox hosts. But if diplomacy is really something they want to focus on, have fail son Peter Doocy start asking about that.